everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Cool. Firstly, thank you so much for coming to the event this evening. I know it's a really hot Wednesday and you'd probably want to be in the pub. So we're very grateful that you're here to come to this event.
I'm like, this is the cool kids club anyway, so welcome. How's everyone's climate week been so far? Or if it's just getting started, give a good big whoop. Let's get the energy in the room. How's it going? Okay, I'm hoping by the end of the night, those whoops are gonna be hollers. Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kalpana. I am one of the co-hosts for today. I'm the founder of Nowadays, and I'll dig into that a little bit more later. But I'm super excited to co-host this event with Issey. Issey, do you want to give a quick intro?
Hi, I'm Issey. I am the founder of Sexy Climate Change, probably most known for the chaotic meme page, but it is also a podcast. So what we're doing this evening is a live podcast recording all around this theme of gaming and gamification and bringing more play into the climate sector, because I think sometimes we can all get a bit bogged down in it and it can feel quite difficult.
I love that. And I'm going to share something I learned, that came up today or this week during London Climate Week at one of the events that I've been at, which was play is a human right. And I feel like this event encompasses all of that and really centers as to why we need to bring more play into the climate movement, but just in general. We're here to have a good time. I'm gonna pass it off to Issey. We wanna just do a short introduction as to why we're here, and then also on the floor you might have found, or on your chairs as well, you might have found Tony Chocoloney's. Thank you so much for providing us hot chocolate. Super grateful. Please make sure that you take a bar on your way home. And also thank you so much to our amazing sponsor, Iris Project. They'll be sharing some about their initiative later on in the evening, and also you'll be able to check out the exhibition that they've got, but we'll give some more context to that later on.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, well, I will start. I'm going to take my seat. To kind of situate why we decided on gamification and playing. So I'm kind of guessing we might have a bit of a split in the room of people who are really into games and people who are into climate.
Like hands up, maybe?
Yeah, hands up if you're more of a gamer. Okay.
Oh, one person in the back. Okay, a few. Put them all the way up.
Okay, and hands up if you are more of a climate person. Okay, we're in a climate room. So what's really interesting and why I wanted to start thinking about gaming and play is because for a lot of games there's this question of world making. Like if you think about all of the games that maybe you played as a child, you enter these worlds and these systems, and it's a lot easier to engage with how other worlds can look if you're doing it via play. Whereas I think sometimes our political imaginations are so limited by the constraints that we have on ourselves, how we imagine work, how we imagine kinship, how we imagine communities, and games give us this blank space to start from again. But the other thing that's quite interesting is that we also need to start using games as climate people. So the other side are doing it, and I'm gonna run you through what they're up to in the game sphere. This is obviously a critique, and I am not pro this game, but I think before we see all of the wonderful interventions of the panelists, it's important to see what the other side is doing. So can we go? Yeah. So this is a game created by Equinor. So if we're not aware about Equinor, they are behind the behind the Rosebank oil development that we are currently trying to stop. What they have done, really interestingly, is they've created this game for school children about the green energy transition. And within this game, they have offered oil and gas as sort of like a transition technology, which we know we can't do. We can't open any more oil fields if we want to stay below 1.5 degrees. And I think it's so interesting that they've decided to do this. I've actually got a direct quote from them, if I grab my notes, kind of explaining why they did this and not trying to hide the reasoning behind. So they said, the web page promoting the game stated that It aligns with our work to build future talent pipelines and secure permission to operate at a time of sensitivity around fossil fuels, particularly in light of the Rosebank development. So this is a game that is trying to give them more social license at a time when we need to be removing their social license to operate. So this is a negative game to start with, but can we go to the next slide? So this is showing what I was saying. It's really showing kids, and it's ingraining in them the idea that we still need these technologies, which is quite a horrible thing to do. But we're going to move on to some more positive gamification and play interventions. So Kalpana, do you want to go first, and then we'll bring the panelists in, or should we bring everyone in?
I think we just bring the panelists in. Lex and Bianca, if you want to come over. I'm also going to, sorry, I didn't bring my water with me. Take some water as you come up.
That's okay. So I think we're starting with Glitch, and then we're going to go into Lex's work, and then into Bianca's work. So are you happy to call slides?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I think slide. Okay, amazing. Oh, can you go back one? Sorry. Oh, do you want me to? Sure. Yeah. Okay, sorry, Lex. Well, okay, I'm back. So, as I mentioned earlier, I founded Nowadays as a social enterprise to bring more nature into cities and into urban spaces. Along the journey, after speaking to a lot of grassroots groups and communities on the ground, there was such a huge gap in terms of the ways that they were using technology and also looking at more different green gaps within streets and neighborhoods that could potentially become gardens and green, flourishing spaces. And so what we wanted to build together, we've run hackathons for about 2 years across London, New York, and in Cali in Colombia. And we came up with this project called Glitch. And Glitch is essentially a fictional cyberbug that creates gardens with civic imagination and local biodiversity data. So our first sort of set of species comes along with blossom trees. So in the platform at the moment, we've only got trees, and then in a couple more months, we will have vegetal gardens. But what we wanted to create was a way to kind of gamify the way that we design our cities and make sure that people are at the center of those decisions and solutions. And when you scan the QR code and you also have a piece of paper in everyone's seats, you'll kind of have a conversation with Glitch in order to see why you want to design your green space and that garden specifically, and also learn about the species that you'll be planting. On top of that, we wanted to layer this sort of augmented reality, so AR interface, in order to get communities to actually spark their imagination and root it down into the concrete world. There's a really beautiful quote by Bell Hooks that says, you know, we need to ground ourselves in our concrete reality and start to imagine futures beyond it. And I feel like augmented reality is a really great way to get people's imagination started, ignited, and going. There's a huge imagination crisis when it comes to the problems that we're facing, but also the solutions that we're currently lacking. I feel like the culture and society that we live in at the moment, you know, is oppressing our imagination through a myriad of ways, and big tech is a big side of that. So what we wanted to do is actually start to decentralize technology and the ways that communities can build them and grow them. And Glitch has become a project through that. If you can go to the next slide, thank you. So these are just a few instances of what you'll experience on the platform. So on the middle, it's kind of like the dialogue between you and our cyber bug. And on it, you'll be able to learn about 5 different tree species like hawthorn, plum, damson, apple. And then on the well, my left, or your left as well. On the left side, you'll be able to see like all the different kind of gardens that people have been planting, as well as the green gaps that citizens have been mobilized to start to build and grow on. And what we want is really for everyone in this room to take it to your streets, take it to your communities. Have a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood and your street, and I'm sure you will find an empty tree pit, an empty street lot that can be used for planting. And you can either do that with or without permission. So in London, guerrilla gardening is a bit of a gray zone, and you are able to kind of start your own community gardens without kind of council approval, and usually they will want you to start it. So it's about hacking the city, hacking the system, and using your imagination to pave the blossoming path forward. And I'll pause there. I'm sure I will get to more later.
Perfect. I love the blossoms so much. I feel like I've been seeing them all spring, and actually through Glitch, I finally learned some of the trees. Bianca, actually no, I think Lex, you're next on the slides.
I'm going to stand so I don't block the screen so you can all see it. But how are you all on this lovely Wednesday evening? I'm Lex. I'm going to talk about this project that I worked on. When Kalpana asked me to come and speak here, I weren't going to do it if this project wasn't ready, because I don't really like to ever talk about things that I haven't be able to contribute to something. And so this particular project is a game called Climate Crisis, Bridgewater Heath, and it's a collaboration between a design studio called Kamuzi, which I ran for 10 years, Impact on Urban Health, which is a health foundation focused around improving, health in Southwark and Lambeth, so mostly focused in South London. They were originally called the St. Thomas's and Guy's Foundation, but they did change their name almost 4 or 5 years ago to Impact on Urban Health. And I set up a smaller studio a long time ago called Office of Art and Technology, but most of my work has been for the last 2 years AI stuff and AI in gaming. So this was fun to do something non-AI related for a rare time. If you can change to the next slide, please. So the game is really simple. You can scan it, try it out. The password is Crisis. But the game is what I describe as a quick 15-minute browser game where you are sort of being a councillor, a climate justice lead, a climate emergency lead in a local council. And your job is to essentially approve, you have 12 policy decisions that you get to make. You can either approve or reject them, and you sort of have to balance budget, political approval, and also like your environmental score. So I had to spend a lot of time trying to understand, like, what does it mean to step into the head of a councillor? What are the particular challenges? Working with Kamuzi, we did a lot of work for local government, mostly with Southwark Council, and also a lot of stuff in healthcare. So we kind of have an understanding of how councils work or how councillors work and those particular struggles, and you have to sort of constantly balance things. So you can scan it, download it, give it a play. Next slide, please, as well. As you can see, for example, this is just example policy cards. So start a council scheme to let people borrow electric bikes before buying their own. It might cost you 10 budget points, but you will get, public approval, and you can also necessarily get, an increase in the environmental scale. Or, for example, council home upgrades. It might cost you quite a lot, but you can get public approval once again and the scale. And so, as you can kind of see, your budget sort of changes, and depending on how much you spend. Next slide, please. And you get this sort of feedback on your decisions. So you have Issey, who is your climate policy officer, and she sort of gives you feedback every time on the decisions you make, whether you approved or you rejected. But also, the budget in the game is not infinite, it's finite. So if you spend too much money, you get access to stuff like an emergency loan, which will cost you some approval points, and you have to pay it back, and things like that. Or if you, or your approval score goes to 0, you get a vote of no confidence. If the climate score goes to 0, you get booted out of office. And at the end of it, you essentially get, a report card rating you and how well you've necessarily done. I only finished this like Thursday because I went to Paris to Fête de la Musique to go and party and have a while of a time. So try it out. There are some bugs in there already, and it will be improved as probably next week or something as I get through the week. But this was something that I really wanted to work on, and I guess we'll touch on it a little bit more. I don't want to yap away, but please scan, please play. Also, when you finish a game, you can give some feedback if you ever have time on the feedback form, just to constantly refine it and improve it and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I really want to have a play, but I'm also kind of worried that I would then realize how hard it is to be a politician and probably would be less mean to them.
Same.
So Bianca, if you could run us through wearing.
Yeah, absolutely. So hey guys, I'm so sorry for the sweaty arm patches. But I'm Bianca, the founder and CEO of Wearing. Wearing is the world's largest digital wardrobe and personal styling app. We have basically brought the clueless dream to life. Our mission is really to upend the buy, use, dispose model. So really thinking about how we can help people keep their clothes in play, given that we only use about 20% of our current wardrobes, which means that we have a massive crisis of underutilization when it comes to the clothes that we already own. So we are all about unlocking value for your wardrobe through, I suppose, 3 key themes. The first is really about rewear, so helping you style the clothes that you already have, democratizing access to styling by getting the community to put outfits together for you based on a mood, occasion, or an item that you're struggling to style. So it's really about sort of that fun, collaborative, but also sort of play element when it comes to thinking about our wardrobes as not just possessions that we've got at the back of a closet, but something that's live, dynamic, can bring us a lot of joy. And in doing so, it's really thinking about reframing consumption for us as we start to build personal style, as we understand what serves us, what doesn't. And that brings us on to the resale piece. So when you upload your clothes to your digital wardrobe, we can obviously help you log what you're wearing. And in doing so, we really track your utilization, your costs per wear, your return on investment on the pieces that you buy. And that can help you identify some things that are no longer serving you that you might want to resell with one click. And that's what we're partnering with a couple of hopefully very big resellers to enable worldwide. And then the last bucket, which we'll go into, I'm sure, in the questions later, but is really about helping you buy better, because we know that loved items last, and we know that you invest in rewearing and keeping things that you like and repairing, mending, lending, renting, etc. And so through doing this, we basically give you wardrobe compatibility. You can try things on before you buy them. We also have a wish list functionality with all your tabs, all of the things that you're thinking about wearing, so that you can sleep on it for 20 nights, so that you can get your friends to style these pieces, give you feedback on if they're the right match for you and your wardrobe, etc. Next slide, please. In terms of what we do, I've kind of alluded to this before, but there's a QR code here if you want to download us. The app is completely free. And as I said, it's all about helping you keep your clothes in play by making your wardrobe digital. Next slide, please. In terms of gamification, I know there's a question coming, but I just wanted to kind of show you what the UI looks like. Again, it's really about thinking, how can we make the most of our wardrobe by seeing the things, the multitude of different combinations that we can create with the clothes that we already have, and reframing how we view our clothes, rather than just, as I said, these things that are kind of piled up under the bed at the back of the wardrobe, as living, breathing items that you wear, that you understand, that you value, and that you can help move on in terms of their life cycle by, as I said, repairing, lending, or reselling them if they're no longer serving you. Next slide, please. This is going to be the iconic gamification dress me functionality, which is the clueless wardrobe, where you've got your tops, bottoms, and shoes. You can scroll, you can make infinite wardrobe or item combinations to create the best looking outfits for the weather any occasion or mood. In lieu of that, I will just end by saying that we have basically taken the Gen Z market by storm in the US, Latin America, and continental Europe. And now we're really thinking about how we can leverage, and I know this will come up later, but technology to help you really streamline your purchasing decisions, make better styling decisions, and how we can keep community at the core of the product that we're building.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really love wearing. I think especially getting all of that data on what you repeat and like seeing that for your future purchasing decisions is so helpful. You also have like a social function, don't you, where you can do other people's wardrobes for them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Style Submissions. And that was, as I said, trying to democratize access to styling, because who can buy, points with a stylist or packages with a stylist? And we realized that actually strangers on the internet are literally your best friends when it comes to this. And that is how we kind of bring play into the equation here.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. So we've heard from all of the panelists across the intersection of nature tech solutions, like your game Lex, this Bianca. And I think something that really draws me to gamification and play is that I tend to sit in the sector of like climate and culture. And I think there's a lot of talk at the moment about how we need to reimagine futures and think about retelling stories, but I think sometimes we're a bit guilty of keeping it in the theoretical realm, and like I think especially on the left, think this is how we'd like to talk about climate, but we're not actually getting out there and experimenting with things and seeing what works and what doesn't. I think we're so scared of getting it wrong that we kind of scare ourselves into inaction, and I think that's what's so cool about games, or like all of your technology, like you even mentioned it, like feedback forms and having this iterative process and moving through things and understanding that mistakes are central to development. There's an amazing quote, I can't remember who by, but it says that you can't just keep theory in isolation. You have to put it into the real world. You have to do the practice to find the errors, to refine the theory. If you keep it in this precious place, it's not going to develop. I'm just wondering, I ask all of my guests this, like a point at which they started to care about the environment. But I think what's more interesting with each of you is at what point did you feel like your skills or your interest in this sort of technological world could assist us in the nature and climate crisis?
I think it's more when you think about the world around you, right? I think for me, a lot of my interest was always originally in healthcare, but looking at healthcare mostly from like an NHS, you get, some sort of care from your GP, and if anybody has ever worked in healthcare before, you'll understand that world is so hard and so complex to like get anything through. So it was an energy of like, how can we also still do things around healthcare that isn't necessarily directly, primary care from your GP and stuff, and that allowed you to look at the broader landscape. So climate has been an area of focus. I've done projects in the past with an organization called Centric Lab and an architectural firm where we were looking, I think we called it Know Your Health, which still exists. And it was like, we created like, I think we didn't even know COVID was about to happen. Our whole idea and concept at the time was, as temperature increases, there's a chance it will introduce new diseases or new things, environmental or health challenges in your local area or stuff like that. So it was like, how much do people know about their health? And so that particular project is also very interactive, and at the end of it, you actually get like an actual report to download and stuff like that. So that became the first sort of action or direction in the space. And working with Impact on Urban Health, we had worked with them on a bunch of projects like vaccine knowledge. So when COVID was around, we did a whole campaign on like vaccine knowledge and how to increase, or address misinformation in the Black community around, COVID vaccines, for example. We did stuff around like just financial health. I'm trying to remember all the different projects. I think we have a project running right now which is about food as well, in Southwark and Lambeth with Impact on Urban Health and things. And so for this particular project here with the climate change, it was like we're doing a lot of air pollution work or climate work And I was like, I want to do something quite educational, but quite simple, that isn't too serious. Like there's a climate game by the Financial Times, Climate something 2050. And that's quite a really complex game, has really complex language, really requires you to be quite like, you using the big words that the Financial Times, writes in the articles and stuff like that. And the whole idea was like, could we simplify? The average reading age in this country is it's not high. So it was like, could we take that and can we create something that's quite accessible as an educational tool where anybody could just pick it up, introduce it, and those particular things. And so the project, that's kind of been the direction with this particular project here, for example.
Yeah, I guess on my end, so back in the pandemic, I don't know, I don't have a sense of time anymore. I feel like my brain's a little bit, none of us do. But during the pandemic, when a lot of sort of parks and green spaces were starting to close down, I felt like whenever I was speaking to people within my community, it felt like all of these sort of community gardens and growing groups were working in silos. And I used to move around quite a lot around London, and I felt like one of the hardest things was to find my local food garden or growing space. And in my head, I was like, why don't we have like a Google Maps, but for food growing? Like that would make life a lot easier instead of me having to create these sub-Google Maps across the world. And so around the time when I started to learn how to guerrilla garden, I also started learning how to code and program. And then for me, those two solutions sort of started coming together of, addressing the tech gap within growing spaces and making sure that they're built with both community in mind, but also making sure that we're building it in a way that it's decentralized from like bigger tech platforms. And so for me, I felt like that was a really big pushing point in terms of using nature tech in the space. And I think it's only gonna grow and expand from there, yeah.
Love that. So much resonates. So I think for me, I used to work in banking before this, so I'm definitely not a fashion girl, as my team can tell you. And I think during that time, I had found it much easier to start my sustainability journey around food, around optimizing household products, just getting started with the basics. And I felt quite helpless because the system that I operated in knew very little about this whole world or cared very little about this whole world. And I never thought about fashion because it seemed too daunting, too difficult. And during my time at Goldman, I used to like run to the office with a backpack at 5 o'clock in the morning with all my clothes. Like I'd forget a shoe, a sock. Like there were many disasters. And I kept feeling, so emotional about this fashion journey, wanting to go into slow fashion, wanting to reduce my consumption, wanting to optimize every purchase to make sure that it would last the test of time, and really trying to experiment with more circular solutions around consumption or around my fashion journey. And I think during that time, it became so personal, it became so vivid, the problems that I was experiencing, not being able to put together outfits, not knowing what I owned, not being able to see what I had, making purchasing mistakes. I'd go out sometimes at my lunch break, being really vulnerable, and buy stuff from fast fashion. And I knew, I'm an educated woman, why the hell am I continuing to do this? And you kind of mentioned this like value action gap where I felt like there was no tech out there that could help me do better in this instance and could make me really rethink this journey, give me insights, give me stats around consumption, utilization, my wardrobe, what's working, what's not, make reselling easy, make shopping more sustainable easier, because I understand who I am, what my style is, what my colors are, whatever. And I think during that, I really started to basically just check in with other people and say, how the hell are you guys doing this? And I started to realize that there was this whole collective of mostly women at the time who were tracking what they were wearing with camera folders in their iPhones. They had spreadsheets to help them think about what they owned and how many times they used their blazers or whatever. I mean, very intense, I know. But it started to sort of dawn on me that there was a whole movement out there of people who wanted to do better with their clothes. And I think that's how I kind of made the jump of saying, I may not be tech, I may not be fashion, but let's start a company that can help people do better with what they have.
That's so cool. Thank you for your input, guys. Kalpana, I've got a question more specifically about Glitch, because Glitch is your most recent project, right? I just kind of wanted to know what the inspiration behind it is, because I feel like we really haven't seen something like this before that, like you mentioned, brings AR into the realm of actually connecting with nature and not severing that connection, because so much of this sort of tech we see is this idea of building a metaverse, building another world. And I think what's so magical about Glitch is that it makes it easier to engage with this world. Like, we're a very kind of technologically developed nation. I think that's where we feel comfortable learning. And like I mentioned earlier, like, I learned the blossom trees through this app. I didn't learn it through a book, and it was a very like native way for me to start on that journey. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
I'm like, first of all, I love anyone who can make a spreadsheet sexy, because I'm like, that's my love language. So,
wow.
Yes. Yes, I mean, so many different ways. I'll start with like the reasoning of why we called Glitch. And as I mentioned, Glitch is a fictional cyber bug that we wanted to kind of play on the typical kind of AI bot agent that you find on websites these days. But Glitch itself was inspired from a book which everyone in this room should read, called Legacy Russell. From the author Legacy Russell. It's called Glitch, Cyberfeminism, something like that. Lex, give me a nod. Thank you. And it basically looks at the ways that technology is very central to our humanity, but the ways that it's been co-opted by industry. So it looks at the ways that we can build friction into our technologies, but also how we can have a more humane and softer relationship with the technologies that we currently have. And so within Glitch, you know, the augmented reality part is about kind of building in this sort of tension and friction point between your mobile device, which is incredibly accessible, everyone in this room has one, and how much of that mobile device is now an extension of yourself. And seeing that part of that technology as yourself, creating a bit of a friction point when it comes to scanning a physical area and being aware of your surroundings, seeing, you know, what's growing, what's not, and through that, creating this kind of place-making system in which you are physically re-embedding yourself back into your neighborhood and into your streets. Because how many of you guys actually chat to your neighbors or speak to the people on your street? And we've lost that sense of community, of homemaking, of placemaking. And what Glitch entails to do is literally start to build this kind of mycelial network within each other. And when you go through the map on the platform, it's actually been really incredible to see how many people have used it. Every single green dot is a place that's been planted in London. And we've had, you know, it's been out for at least a month and a half. I don't know. Again, sense of time is weird for me. And we've had about 1,500 users, and it just keeps growing every day. And it's just really fantastic to see how everyone is planting a seed in different ways in their own corners. Something that we really wanted to address is this concept of generational environmental amnesia, which basically is, with every new generation, there's a shifting baseline of the nature that we know to be normal in our cities, and that is degrading. If you ask someone who is 60 years old, who's always lived in London, they'll tell you, it used to be greener. We used to breathe better air. Things used to be cleaner, and it can be that way again, but because we've been so kind of sedated by our technologies, by the systems around us, to kind of restate what is normal, we've lost that sense of vision. And there's so many reasons why nature is good for us, both physically, mentally, also like for our biodiversity, for our planet. But we need to start thinking about the ways that technology can actually help us scale nature-based solutions, because right now we need to mobilize en masse, and technology is actually paving the way forward for everyone to take back power and agency. And that's really what we want to have people do, especially within conservation and within bringing green spaces into cities. That job shouldn't just be left to ecologists or councils. If we had a technology and a platform that is able to give you the right information of what is needed and planted within your local area in terms of biodiversity or types of plants, and connect you to local growing groups, why can't you be an actor and a player within changing the system and changing the rules that you're playing in? So I guess that's a little bit of why Glitch has been seeded. It came out of a deep sense of kind of frustration and rage from the system and wanting to build a different type of technology, especially in the nature space. I feel like everyone pushes away tech, and because, rightfully so, I think our communities have been destroyed by big tech. Our planet is being destroyed by bigger tech companies, and the very systems in which our phones come from. And we need to actually start taking that power back and redesigning the systems. And I'll just end it with, I've been waffling a lot, I apologize, but I'll end it with a really incredible thinker and visionary called Alex Wolff, and she's a technologist based in the States. She says that design changes behaviors faster than good ideas. And I think we've got a lot of great ideas. We have the solutions, but we need better design. We need design that changes systems overnight. And that's what we're here to do through play and through games.
And I love that you mentioned about kind of reimagining our digital culture and like stepping into this new world, but in a softer way. I'm reading a book at the moment called Logging Off by Adele Zeynep Walton, and it's amazing. Within it, she talks about a trauma that her family has been through and how it's such a part of this kind of new digital world that we're in, and how, if anything else could cause a trauma like that to a family, it would be heavily controlled. We control things like alcohol and cigarettes, but we're still not quite there with our digital worlds because they're moving so quickly. And also, we're obviously existing in a world of AI oligarchy where not everyone gets to say what this world looks like. And Lex, I love it when I kind of meet someone who has a job title that I've never heard before, and your title is Creative Coder, which I think is an amazing title. I was wondering if you could also speak to this idea of how do you balance the digital and the real world? Like, how do you create something that is immersive and engaging, but also, like with your NHS app, like triggers action IRL?
I guess when I said the questions, I knew I would have to define what that role is. I guess a creative coder is a very niche sort of term, role. It's mostly, you do the same thing that a software developer does. It's just that you're writing code for the purpose of expression, creative expression. That is how it's defined. Like I'm writing the same software, using the same libraries, the same everything. I'm just not building stuff for productivity. I may be building things for creative, expression and stuff. I should probably by now call myself a game developer or something like that. But I work on quite broad stuff, so I never really get myself tied down. How do you balance the real world? I guess a lot of the big things for me in my work is, at the core of it, everything's all about a story. I think for me, I see a lot of my work as like interactive stories. And in the case of this particular project here that I just shared with everyone, the story is a bunch of different things. You're basically sitting in the role of the challenges to achieve this goal of, can we actually improve, our environment, for example. Like that was one of those interesting things, was like that in the game there is no 100%, climate, because the way because building this game was very simple in terms of the actual, what you see, the interface and stuff like that. The bit that was maybe took a little bit of time was the actual maybe story parts, or the different things in a way that you have to present it without actually telling a story. So what are the particular policies that we may use? What are the particular, what policy may cost more than the other when you're not actually using like an actual number, like it's gonna cost you 2 mil, it's gonna cost you this. How do you make sure that it's not too easy to like get 100% something or 100% this? Like there's no 100% basically in the game, because getting to 100% climate is not necessarily real. So what might happen is you might complete the game and you get a C, or you might get, like all of these different things, and trying to find the balance of like, how hard have we made it, or how easy should it be because it's a game environment. Those are like the sort of back and forths I'm actually having right now with Impact on Urban Health about like the difficulty part. Are we saying that nobody's ever going to get 100? Are we saying we're never going to get excellent? Like, what does excellent mean? All of those particular different things. But also, as well, I am a developer who's writing code to create this experience, and I'm not an expert in climate, right? So you also got that balance and challenge of like, can I make something that folks who do work in the climate space, who work in the policy space, can interact with it and say, well done, you tried, you know what I mean? And not like, that's something I'm always holding in my head, because it's, and trying to make sure that it's rooted as much as I can with the, and try to find out different stuff, looking at, all of these different things. So for me, it's always about the storytelling aspect and, presenting that for folks to interact with and try out and stuff like that. And that's at the core of this experience. It's a very short game, but it's just hopefully should be an eye-opener for folks to interact with and, learn a lot from in that way, yeah. So that's my thought process.
And on the theme of learning and opening your eyes, I've got a question for you, Bianca, about wearing and how this app that you initially kind of see as your dream, Cher Horowitz's Clueless Wardrobe, actually turns into a very like data-led behavior change mechanism wrapped in this kind of really fun, cool packaging. Do you have any stories from customers that have massively changed their behavior as a result of using wearing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sort of three key behaviors that we've seen enabled or I suppose positively exacerbated through the use of the Wearing app. The first is thinking about styling as a game. And it's sort of reminiscent, I don't know if anyone here used to use Polyvore or uses Pinterest to like create outfits, or in my case, PowerPoint, lol. Yeah, my team's always like, guys, Canva. I'm like, no, I can't do that shit. But so it's really thinking about sort of styling as a game and viewing your wardrobe as a place that you can shop and that you can positively interact with in terms of making millions of different outfit combinations, in terms of leveraging the community to get styling input and inspiration. And that's been really interesting because we didn't expect people on the internet to want other people on the internet to style them for free. And some of the stuff is so rogue. Our initial kind of build had some functionalities that would put really wacky outfits together for you that a lot of users would be like, this is so random. And we initially got a lot of, not negative feedback, but it was sort of almost jokey as, what the hell is this styling app trying to make me wear today? And actually, through that, we were able to help people, and this was the feedback, break down the concept of, I have to look like this to be stylish. I have to wear these pieces in this way because that's what it looked like when I bought it online, or that's what I see people online wearing this type of thing like. And it was really pushing the boundaries of your own personal style, what you're comfortable doing. And that was really central to our mission of, again, helping you make the most of what you own and giving or extending the life cycle of clothes that you might not use now and giving them a chance to be used and be loved. The second really interesting thing that Vogue did a whole article on was the concept of outfit tracking or outfit logging. I don't know how many people in the audience do this. Maybe it's very niche to the fashion world, but it was really thinking about logging what you're wearing on a daily basis, or doing something like, I don't know if you guys know Mandy Lee has a 60-day style challenge. So logging what you wear for 60 days to really think about, what am I comfortable in? What is serving me? What is not? How can I help declutter, move pieces on that I'm not using, and how can I creatively put together more cool outfits with the things that I love? And through that, we basically allowed people to log this daily in the app, like people used to do in the Notes app, or use sort of mundane platforms like a spreadsheet to do. And that was really exciting because it allowed people to understand that at the end of the 60 days or at the end of the 360 days or whatever time limit you put to yourself, you would get insights into your personal style, resale recommendations, an understanding of your ROI or return on investment on your wardrobe or your cost per wear. And that was super helpful to people, which led to the third point of feedback or user change or behavior, which was a massive reduction in spending or a huge increase increase in satisfaction post-purchase. Because if you log what you wear, you understand what you're wearing, what's serving you, you're much more likely to make better styling decisions and purchasing decisions. And that's been super helpful because we've had people in their kind of teens reach out and say, I have now really, really, really changed not only the way that I dress, the way that I think about my wardrobe, reduced my consumption, and saved so much time getting ready every day and feel so much more positive about the things that indeed I am wearing.
And I really like that as wearing as a vehicle to develop your personal style, because I think that we are living in an era of constant micro trends and this almost like homogeneity in the way that people dress. And I think having something that allows you to really bring out, okay, what am I wearing? Why do I like it? Can I add more of that in? Is such a beautiful path in comparison to like, I just want to wear the old money aesthetic for the next month and I'm going to buy 15 items and that's going to go out of fashion and then I want to be on this next micro trend, and it just creates this endless wheel of consumption.
And I think to that point, we'd see a lot of people use Pinterest or save folders on Instagram or their camera roll to basically bring together their inspiration that they never really do much with, or that doesn't feel like there's an end to it or there's a specific kind of use case. And for us, it was about turning that inspiration into play with your actual wardrobe. And that allows you to, as you say, like experiment with really who you are and what you want, rather than feel kind of pressured by society to follow things that don't serve you at all.
But I'm kind of worried if I did it, it would just be me in my studio dungarees for weeks on end. Okay, so this is going to be the final question from me, and then we're going to pass to audience questions. So this is your warning to think up some questions. Okay, final question is, why do you think dreaming up better futures to the climate crisis is essential through play? Or what can play bring to that? How does it make you feel when you are kind of staring down at something that can be quite scary and quite overwhelming and quite anxiety-inducing?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. So I think for us, what the wearing environment has really helped a lot of our users do is kind of threefold, yeah. I think the first thing is that inspiration piece. It's like, how can I recreate with my own wardrobe things that I like instead of buy to recreate things that I like? Which helps you imagine a whole world of possibilities, right? And it helps you sort of basically take action or mobilize your wardrobe to a positive end rather than an end that leads to more consumption. The second thing that I think we help you dream up or we help you imagine is collaboration. So a load of people, I don't know who does this, but WhatsApp their best friends saying, what are we wearing tonight? How are we packing for this trip that we're going on? Can I borrow this? Can I do that? And wearing is that platform that helps you do that and helps, I suppose, bring community to the fore when it comes to either consumption or style. And I really love that because we bring basically a world where you can play together, you can style each other, you can opine. I don't know who's watched Sex and the City, but like keep, throw, resell, whatever kind of game that they play in that movie, and bring that to life through tech. So basically build a place where you can dream collaboratively, and it feels like a place where it's about style, not about ads on Instagram or Pinterest that are making you trying to buy stuff that you really don't need. And I suppose the third dreamy thing, which you kind of alluded to and was a bit of a product surprise for us, was actually it's really great to be nerdy about your wardrobe. It's all about the analytics. It's all about insights and understanding how is your style evolving? What are you buying that's serving you? How does this become almost like the analysis of a financial portfolio? You know, how can you see your kind of wardrobe value in your closet and understand what it means for you and what it means for your budget for the year? Or if you're doing a no-spend year, how you can look back on your wardrobe utilization and think, okay, I need to buy one thing and then I can do a no-buy year, or actually I can sell a couple of things and I definitely don't need anything at all this year without limiting my experimentation with style. So for us, those are the kind of three things that we think about when we help you dream and we'll help you, I suppose, bring or enact positive mobilization when it comes to increasing wardrobe utilization.
The question was, how does play help us imagine new futures when it comes to the climate crisis? or like new ways to deal with it? Or maybe you think it doesn't.
It's an interesting one because I feel like there's so much information that folks are already burdened already with information. So it's like one of the hardest things when you work on stuff like this is, you know, do you want to burden people with more information or make people feel helpless? Like, it's like, what do you, you know, essentially do? You know, and I think that's even something, as you asked that question, and I don't know why I forgot about it, what the question was, but in my head, it was like, I even started thinking now about like, what does aftercare look like? Even if you interacted with something like this game where, you know, you're counseling, you're playing this stuff, but you're learning these things, but what happens after? What's that aftercare side? Because I think that the challenge is, I think we've all been burdened with information about climate and what we should do around the climate and how we should do stuff in our life and all of these things for a long time now. But there's still so much more that, you know, either other partners, other factors, or, you know, things in this can also play their role in order to, you know, have some sort of address the climate emergency issue and things like that. So I think it's, yeah, I think for me, my thought, just as this came to mind, is like the aftercare side, after interacting with something of, you know, of this way and what can be done there, which I haven't got the answers for just yet, but it's something that I will probably go away and think about a little bit more after this panel.
I'll try to keep it brief. I feel like turning play into power is something that both the climate movement, but just I think humanity needs. We're so caught up in our daily habits, but also just deeply programmed conditioning. Even like our education system's just really fucked up. And it doesn't integrate play just in your general day-to-day. So I feel like having, you know, platforms or apps, technology that can reignite that childlike wonder for the world and the joy that does exist and happens naturally when you connect to people, when you connect to each other, when you connect to the nature around you. I feel like that's something that just instantly brings play and curiosity into your day-to-day. So, I mean, with Glitch, something that we're really wanting to do is to create these sort of sticky habits and have it be, you know, I mean, how many times do we like, you know, without using our brains, just open up Instagram because our thumb is sort of trained to go that direction on our mobile phone, or, you know, whatever, TikTok or whatever platform it may be. And just for you to have another option, like instead of scrolling mindlessly through your phone, maybe plant a cyber tree, and that cyber tree, that cyber garden will kind of transform itself into something real. And something that I didn't mention is we partnered with the National Trust in order to make sure that those trees and those locations get acknowledged into potential planting zones that they will plant into blossom trees themselves with local ecologists in mind. And we'll be doing the same for gardens. And hopefully, you know, the person who's planted them digitally gets involved in that action as well. But we just want to create different pathways and different avenues. I feel like, you know, we're living in an end of a world in some ways, and just creating different worldviews and different pluralities in which we can exist. You know, what's going to make that happen is play and is experimentation. And like you mentioned in the beginning, we're going to get it wrong, and that's okay. Like, we have to kind of move away from, you know, perfectionism and trying to like do the right thing all the time, but make mistakes. If something in this conversation has inspired you to create a game in your own world somehow, like I just started D&D and it's been amazing and so great for my mental health, but like, you know, if it's already a game that already exists or something new that isn't out there, just think about the ways that you can integrate play and world building into your practice and into your day-to-day.
That was such a great answer. Is anybody feeling brave with a question?
Just put your hand up, by the way. We've got a roaming mic.
Yeah, at the back. Oh, sorry, we'll just get a mic to you.
I guess because we've been talking so much about play, I was wondering for each of you, like, what brings you a sense of play or curiosity kind of in your day-to-day lives?
Ooh.
I feel like the first thing that came to mind was cooking, or like, I mean, I'm like, I hope my partner's not here because he's gonna get so mad at me. I am a mess in the kitchen, and I love it. Mostly because he does the cleaning up, but also it just allows me like a space to be free and to not give a shit and to just like, you know, experiment with flavors. And I feel like just that's a really big space where I find play.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say spreadsheets, but I think for me, weirdly enough, it's actually gardening or styling. Yeah, I feel like that physical connection to the earth and actually seeing the result of your labor in a short period of time, or actually a long period of time, is incredibly satisfying and incredibly beautiful, and it just makes me feel super grounded. Love that.
I would say that, yeah, play is for me, it's a mindset, you know. I think it's an energy that you can carry through every way possible. The way you choose to dress, the way you choose to style yourself, the way you choose to move, and the energy, you know, wanting to come and make people laugh. That's, you know, playful. All of those, you know, different things. I think that's the way how I see it. Because for a long time, I remember like, I was giving this talk 2 years ago at the Birmingham Design Festival, and it was like 10 years of working in this space. And I looked back at every project I had done, and I was like, oh shit, play is the theme out of a lot of them. And I had never ever like intentionally gone out my way to do so. It's only kind of been now where I've been like, I'm gonna make stuff, you know, proper playful and be super intentional with that aspect. But I think it just is an extension of who I am, and wanting to be playful and wanting to and try to, you know, shape the world that I want to see by creating things that are continuously playful and stuff like that. I think that's kind of the way how my relationship with play is.
I totally agree with you. I think that's why I've ended up with a platform that is so silly, because I just feel like I didn't really see that in climate, or I didn't see enough humor or lightness. I think somewhere where I've tried to bring a lot of play in is in my creative hobbies that I don't have pressure about being good at. I think that we have internalized so much of like the capitalist narrative that every single creative hobby we do, we're like, this could be a side hustle, this could be, I could make money off this, and it kind of loses its joy of relaxing and playing. And I think for me a big space where I like to play is music, because that's nothing that I am not particularly good at it, but I love, my sister's here, I love a big sing in the car when we're like driving around, because it's just a space to kind of breathe out and not be so worried about what I'm producing, and detaching from this idea of production, I think, is why play is so central. And I think that's part of the reason it's one of the best things in our arsenal to think about solving the climate crisis, because it's an area that I guess you guys are creating things that we use, but we're not really consuming product in the same way. Like, you're trying to avoid consuming product like in a irresponsible way. I know it's very, very warm, so we're going to do one more audience question. Tara, I know you had one.
Just say, really, really enjoyed this conversation. You guys are brilliant. I was really struck when I heard each of your projects how I've played games that have those elements. So I've played Stardew Valley, where you grow things. I've played games where you collect things and style things. I've played Civ, where you build cities and you have all those kind of decisions. So I feel like I've got a really great sense of how your work is collecting to like the climate sector and maybe the people in this room. But are you affecting the video game industry? Is there a relationship with what is, you know, I think it's like the most popular medium in the world, right? And has its stereotypes and has its very strong players. So I'm wondering if there's any impact going the other way. So more climate maybe sneaking into the video game industry.
Yeah,
We'll run one round.
We can pass the mic that way.
Oh, we're just sending a mic over. Thank you.
How you doing? Good point, and well made. On one of the other roles I consult on, I consult for a company called Planet Play. And Planet Play does exactly that. It's a platform, so it's a gamers platform like a Steam or, where you can download your favorite games. And so we're a non-profit company, and gamers can play their favorite games, and actually we do the deal with the studios, and all of the profits that on the deal that we've done with them, go to planting trees, cleaning up oceans, cleaning up rivers, etc., etc. So we fish and clash. We did a game where you can normally fish, but this time we were fishing out junk out of the water to clean up the rivers. Stuff like that. There's a play game called Abacin Life, which is a dress-up game. I don't know if you know about that. It's millions and millions, 40, 50 million users. We put superstars into that game, and that elevates that product, and they come back to us. We've also done a big thing with the UNDP, where we've actually put climate questions into games. We did the largest climate survey in games with young people, and about 1.1 million people responded to that. And we're doing that further and further. So we're using gamers help solve the problem. There's a massive climate problem, we know that, but there's 3 billion gamers. And so if they do a little, all they have to do is the same thing. I've dubbed it passive activism. So you don't have to do anything. Play your favorite game, just buy it on Planet Play, and we'll do the rest. You game, we'll plant a tree, 0 effort, real life action. There you go. So that's Planet Play. So I look it up, and we do some good shit. So it is happening, it does happen, and we're doing it at a much bigger scale than you can possibly imagine, and with governments and UNDPs and all that malarkey. So we're on the right track, but yeah, we've not got it all covered yet. And there is actually a thing called Playing for the Planet, actually, with the UNDP as well, that you need to be aware of. So that's another quite big movement that's all there. So there's a lot in play, and just watch that space, really.
I was also going to shout out Amy, who's in the room, because they ran a project last year with Purpose Disruptors. And one of the things that they had was with Seed Saga, and they had Nadine Pereira, who's part of Flock Together, join a Twitch session where they were going through the game and naming out all of the nature species or looking at birds. And so it is happening, is there. So Amy, you can raise your hand if people want to find you. She's there. Or talk to this lovely gentleman as well. But yeah, UN Playing for the Planet is really big. I don't, Lex, were you looking for something specifically, or you're just enthralled? Maybe we can take one more short question.
I think we maybe wrap. It's warm. Sorry, guys. I'm just conscious that you're all kind of have been sat still in a warm room. Before we end, though, we wanted to say thank you to some of our wonderful partners that we've had involved in putting on this event. The drinks have been by Goodrays. They are a CBD brand. We have had, who else?
The Art House, thank you so much for hosting us
guys.
in this room.
Thank you. The Art House have been really great. They are one of my partners. We had an event in January, and hopefully there'll be a couple of others throughout the year. And then finally...
Tony Chocoloney's as well, as I mentioned in the beginning. Please make sure you take a chocolate bar home with you, because I don't want to carry them home with me later today. My partner will be very upset about it. I keep dragging him into this conversation. I'm so sorry. And lastly, but not least, we want to introduce Millie from the Iris Project. The Iris Project has helped us bring this event together, and we're incredibly thankful. Some of the boards hosts of some of the projects, and Millie will be sharing a little bit about that. In the room next to it, with all the lovely, comfortable, cool sofas, there's a film showing as well, which I'll let Millie explain, but round of applause for Millie as she comes on up.
Hello. Lex, do you mind if I take your seat? Thank you. Yes, I will keep this brief too, because it is very hot. But my name is Millie, and I'm the director of the Iris Project. And when I first spoke to Issey and Kalpana about this, the concept for this event, I thought to myself, how is this connected to what we do at the Iris Project? And in brief, we enable young people to protect and restore nature in their communities through grant funding and mentorship and capacity building. And we do this through a kind of global annual prize, and we primarily fund projects in the Global South. And so I was like, gaming, like how is it connected? And I think everything that you guys have just said just confirmed to me that the themes are so similar in that it's about the innovation, it's about the joy, it's about the creativity that you all have with your incredible projects, which are so different to the projects that you'll all hopefully go and learn about soon, but the themes are the same, and that's the innovation, and that's the belief that they and you guys can, and we all can come up with solutions. We just have to open our eyes to the blossom trees or look at our wardrobe and think, okay, maybe I do have the outfit. And some of the projects that we've supported are everything from this amazing young woman in Nepal who's creating biodegradable menstrual pads out of upcycled banana fiber, and it's not only a waste solution, but it's also breaking down stigmas for women and giving opportunities for women and girls, or Sungai Watch, which was started by 3 incredible young siblings in Bali, where Kat's from, and they're stopping all of the, well, not all of it, because there's a lot of it there, but they're stopping a lot of plastic going into the oceans through collection, advocacy, calling out the biggest polluters. And so if you have time before you leave, I would love for you all to go and read about some of the projects. They're on these boards and in the next door room, and they are our 9 winners. So we have 21 grantee partners so far, with another 9 about to join us, and they're all between the ages of 14 and 24, and we work with them over 2 to 3 years to incubate their projects, help them come up with, help them grow and scale so that they can either go on to make mega environmental impact with that project, or if you don't want to continue doing the project that you came up with when you were 17, which I'm sure most of us probably wouldn't, then they have been kind of nurtured with skills and confidence to hopefully go out and make even more impact. And there's QR codes so you can find out more about their stories. And if anyone wants to connect with any of the projects or with anyone at the Iris Project, then please reach out. But thank you for involving us in this amazing, amazing opportunity. And it's a really unique opportunity for the Iris Project because we've never been able to kind of platform their stories in this way, in this like creative exhibition type style. So yeah, I hope they inspire you. And thank you.
Okay. So just a note to say that the event isn't over. We have a lot of fun interventions for you guys to interact with. So over here we have Matteo, who's going to be talking about Daybreak, which is a board game about how we can address the climate crisis. Over here we have Climate Reframe, an amazing organization trying to get more diverse voices into climate and onto panels and at events like this, because it can be a very, very undiverse space. In the final wall over here, like right kind of when you came in, there's some questions on the wall and there's some sticky notes about maybe what you've learnt from today or how you want to imagine a future. So if you could fill some of those out and have a scribble, that would be amazing. We also are going to have a demo of Glitch running here, a DJ, and more drinks. So I think, have I covered everything?
Yeah, and I mean, I think lastly but not least, time to play. And yeah, just have fun, play.
Amazing.
Also, just want to say thank you to our amazing panelists, Bianca, Lex. You guys have been incredible. I mean,
and as the chairs are going to be cleared, so you can come back in here and have a dance in a second.